Part 5. The shelter buzzed with activity as Emma worked tirelessly to upgrade the prototype weapon. With the new materials stolen from the alien convoy, she was able to create several more devices, each one slightly more advanced than the last. The survivors gathered around her makeshift workstation, watching in awe as she tested the weapons on scrap metal and pieces of alien tech they had salvaged. Sparks flew, circuits hummed, and the air crackled with energy. It was clear that these weapons were unlike anything humanity had ever seen before. Alex stood nearby, his arms crossed as he watched Emma work. "How many can you make?" he asked, his voice low but urgent. Emma glanced up, wiping sweat from her brow. "Enough for a proper attack," she replied. "But we'll need people who know how to use them." Ryan stepped forward, his injured arm bandaged but still functional. "Leave that to me," he said confidently. "I'll train whoever's willing to fight." Mia nodded, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. "And I'll keep documenting everything. If we succeed, the world needs to know what happened here." Jake hesitated, then spoke up. "What about Daniel? He knows the area better than any of us. We should bring him into the plan." Everyone agreed. Daniel had proven himself during their escape from the ambush, showing both courage and resourcefulness. When Ryan went to find him, Daniel didn't hesitate to join the group. "If you're serious about taking those bastards down," he said, "count me in." Over the next few days, the shelter transformed into a hub of resistance. Survivors from other parts of the city began trickling in, drawn by rumors of the team's success against the aliens. Some were civilians looking for safety, while others were fighters eager to join the cause. Among them was Lisa Carter, Alex's wife, and their daughter Sophie. Alex nearly collapsed with relief when he saw them, pulling them into a tight embrace. "I thought I'd lost you," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. Lisa hugged him back just as fiercely. "We're safe now," she said. "But we're not giving up. Not after everything you've done." Sophie clung to her father's leg, her wide eyes filled with both fear and admiration. "Are you going to beat the aliens, Daddy?" Alex knelt down and smiled at her. "We're going to try our best, sweetheart." With Lisa and Sophie reunited, Alex felt a renewed sense of purpose. He wasn't just fighting for humanity anymore. He was fighting for his family. As the group prepared for their next move, Emma finalized the design of the upgraded weapons. Each device was compact and portable, capable of disabling alien shields and causing significant damage to their ships. She also included a fail-safe mechanism to prevent the weapons from being used against humans if they fell into the wrong hands. "These won't win the war on their own," Emma warned, handing out the prototypes to the trained fighters. "But they'll give us a fighting chance." Ryan divided the survivors into teams, assigning roles based on their strengths. Some would serve as scouts gathering intelligence on enemy movements. Others would act as decoys, drawing Xylothian forces away from key targets. The rest would form the main assault group, armed with the new weapons and ready to strike. "We hit them hard and fast," Ryan instructed during a strategy meeting. "Once we disable their shields, we focus on their weak points, engines, power cores, anything that'll cripple their ships." Mia raised her hand. "What about communication? How do we coordinate once we're split up?" "We'll use walkie-talkies," Ryan replied, holding up a handful of devices scavenged from an old electronics store. "They're basic, but they'll work." The day of the attack arrived sooner than anyone expected. Reports came in that the Xylothians were planning a massive assault on a refugee camp located on the outskirts of the city. The camp housed hundreds of survivors, including children and the elderly, making it a prime target for the invaders. "We can't let that happen," Alex said firmly. "This is our chance to protect innocent lives and show the aliens that we're not going down without a fight." The group moved quickly, splitting into their assigned teams and heading toward the camp. Along the way, they encountered pockets of resistance, other groups of survivors who had banded together to defend themselves. Inspired by the team's efforts, these groups joined forces, swelling their numbers and boosting their morale. When they reached the camp, the scene was grim. Refugees huddled together, their faces pale with fear as the sound of alien engines grew louder in the distance. Ryan approached the leader of the camp, a middle-aged woman named Sarah, and explained their plan. "You're risking your lives for us," Sarah said, her voice trembling. "Why?" "Because no one deserves to live like this," Ryan replied. "Now get your people ready to evacuate. We'll hold them off." As night fell, the Xylothian ships descended upon the camp, their bright beams illuminating the dark sky. The ground shook as biomechanical warriors deployed, marching forward with ruthless efficiency. But this time, humanity was ready. Ryan's team struck first, launching a surprise attack from the shadows. The new weapons proved devastating, disabling the aliens' shields and leaving them vulnerable. Explosions rocked the battlefield as the defenders fought back with everything they had: improvised explosives, stolen alien tech, and sheer determination. Alex led a group of fighters in a daring charge against one of the larger ships. As they approached, he activated his weapon, aiming it directly at the ship's engine. A pulse of energy shot out, causing the vessel to shudder and emit a loud screech. The ship listed to one side, its systems failing. "We did it," someone shouted. But the victory was short-lived. Reinforcements arrived, forcing the defenders to retreat deeper into the camp. Ryan called for a fallback, ordering everyone to regroup near the evacuation point. The battle was far from over. Amidst the chaos, Mia continued filming, capturing every moment of the fight. Her hands shook as she recorded the bravery of ordinary people standing up to an overwhelming enemy. At one point, she caught sight of Jake leading a group of refugees to safety, his face streaked with dirt and blood but resolute. "Keep moving," Jake urged, helping an elderly man climb over a pile of rubble. "We're almost there." Behind them, Daniel took up a position, near the rear, using his spear to fend off pursuing aliens. His movements were swift and precise, born of desperation and experience. When a warrior lunged at him, he sidestepped and drove the spear into its core, sending it crashing to the ground. By dawn, the battle had turned in humanity's favor. The Xylothians, caught off guard by the coordinated resistance, began retreating. Their damaged ships lifted off the ground, disappearing into the clouds. Cheers erupted among the survivors as they realized they had won. For now, Ryan surveyed the aftermath, his expression grim despite the victory. "This isn't the end," he said, "but it's a start." Alex nodded, his arm wrapped protectively around Lisa and Sophie. "We showed them that we're not afraid, that's something." Emma approached, her face pale but determined. "We need to keep building. More weapons, better defenses." This was just the beginning. As the sun rose, over the horizon, casting light over the battered landscape, hope flickered to life once again. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but for the first time since the invasion began, humanity had proven that it could fight back and win. Outside, the alien ships lingered ominously in the distance, a reminder of the challenges yet to come. But deep within the hearts of the survivors, a spark of defiance burned brighter than ever. They had waged war on Earth, but humans made them regret everything. Autumn War. The mood in the shelter was tense but focused. Emma worked tirelessly, her hands moving quickly as she assembled the prototype weapon using the materials Alex, Mia, Ryan, and Jake had brought back. Around her, the others helped in any way they could, sorting components, holding tools, or simply keeping watch for signs of trouble. The air buzzed with a mix of hope and urgency. Everyone knew time was running out. Emma glanced up from her work, her face streaked with dirt and sweat. "We're close," she said, her voice steady despite the exhaustion in her eyes. "Just a few more adjustments and we'll be ready to test it." Ryan leaned against a wall, his arms crossed. "And then what? We can't exactly march up to one of their ships and ask them to hold still while we fire this thing." "We'll find a way," Alex replied firmly. "If this works, it'll give us a fighting chance." Mia nodded, though her expression was thoughtful. She had spent hours reviewing the data she downloaded from the warehouse terminal. What she found troubled her. "Guys," she began hesitantly, "I think I know why they're here." All eyes turned to her. "Spill it," Ryan said. Mia pulled out her phone and opened the files. These logs are from before the invasion. They show that Earth has been monitored for decades, maybe longer. The aliens, the Xylothians, are dying. Their planet is drying up, and they're desperate for resources. That's why they've come here. Jake frowned. So they just decided to take our planet without asking? It's worse than that, Mia continued. They don't see us as equals. To them, we're pests. Something to be wiped out, so they can strip the planet bare. The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. Alex clenched his fists. That's not going to happen. Not if we have anything to say about it. By morning, Emma had finished assembling the prototype. It was a small device, no larger than a toaster, with wires and circuits exposed. A single button sat on top, glowing faintly. Despite its crude appearance, there was an undeniable sense of power radiating from it. This is it, Emma said, holding it up for everyone to see. It's designed to disrupt their shields. If we can disable even one ship, it'll give us an opening. Ryan inspected the device skeptically. Looks fragile. You sure it'll hold up against those things? It'll work, Emma insisted. But we need to get close enough to use it. Alex stepped forward. Then let's plan our next move. Where do we go? Mia pointed to a map spread out on the table. There's a convoy heading toward the mothership later today. They're transporting supplies, energy cells, weapons, maybe even prisoners. If we hit them, we might be able to cause some real damage. Ryan studied the map, his brow furrowed. It's risky. Those convoys are heavily guarded. We don't have a choice, Alex said. This is our best shot. After a brief discussion, they agreed on a plan. They would set up an ambush along the convoy's route using the prototype to disable the lead vehicle and create chaos. From there, they hoped to steal whatever supplies they could and gather more intel on the aliens. The team prepared carefully, gathering weapons and supplies from the shelter. Ryan armed himself with a crowbar and a knife, while Alex carried the prototype in a padded case. Mia brought her phone, determined to document everything, and Jake volunteered to act as a lookout. Before leaving, Emma gave them one final warning. Be careful, she said. If this fails, we won't get another chance. They nodded solemnly and headed out, the weight of their mission pressing down on them. The journey to the ambush site was grueling, the landscape littered with debris and ash. Every step felt like a gamble, every sound a potential threat. But they pressed on, driven by the knowledge that failure wasn't an option. When they reached the designated spot, a narrow stretch of road flanked by crumbling buildings, they set up quickly. Ryan positioned himself near the front, ready to spring into action. Alex crouched behind a pile of rubble, clutching the prototype tightly. Mia climbed to a higher vantage point, her phone's camera trained on the horizon. Jake stayed hidden, in the shadows, scanning the area for enemies. Time seemed to crawl by. Minutes stretched into hours as they waited, their nerves fraying with each passing second. Just when doubt began to creep in, the hum of alien engines filled the air. The convoy appeared in the distance, a line of sleek vehicles escorted by biomechanical warriors. Get ready, Ryan whispered. As the lead vehicle approached, Alex activated the prototype. He pressed the glowing button, and a low whine emanated from the device. A pulse of energy shot out, invisible but potent, striking the alien vehicle. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a deafening crackle, the vehicle's shield flickered and collapsed. Yes, Alex hissed under his breath. The convoy screeched to a halt as the aliens scrambled to respond. The warriors raised their weapons, scanning the area for the source of the attack. Ryan seized the opportunity, charging at the nearest soldier with his crowbar. Metal clashed against metal as he fought desperately to hold his ground. Mia filmed the chaos, her hands trembling as she captured the scene. Explosions erupted around her, sending shockwaves through the air. She ducked behind cover, coughing, as smoke filled her lungs. Nearby, Jake spotted a group of aliens advancing on Alex's position. Without hesitation, he hurled a piece of debris at them, buying Alex precious seconds to retreat. Fall back, Ryan shouted, realizing they were outnumbered. The team regrouped behind a collapsed wall, catching their breath as the aliens searched for them. Though the ambush hadn't gone perfectly, they had succeeded in disabling the lead vehicle and causing confusion among the convoy. Now they needed to escape before reinforcements arrived. "We did it," Alex said, his voice shaking with relief. "We actually did it," Mia smiled weakly. "Let's not celebrate yet. We still have to get out of here." Ryan led the way, guiding them through a maze of alleys and side streets. Behind them, the sound of alien footsteps grew louder. They were being pursued. "Keep moving," Ryan urged, glancing over his shoulder. Just as the group rounded a corner, they stumbled upon an unexpected sight. A lone human figure standing amidst the wreckage. It was a man in his 40s, wearing tattered clothes and clutching a makeshift spear. His face was gaunt, but his eyes burned with defiance. "Who are you?" Alex asked, lowering his weapon slightly. The man hesitated, then lowered his spear. "Name's Daniel," he said. "I've been watching those bastards since they got here. Figured someone would try to fight back eventually." Ryan exchanged a glance with Alex. "Can you help us?" Daniel nodded. "Follow me. I know a shortcut." With Daniel's guidance, the group managed to evade their pursuers and make it back to the shelter safely. Exhausted but triumphant, they recounted their story to Emma and the other survivors. The prototype had worked. It had given them hope. But the victory came at a cost. Ryan had sustained a nasty gash on his arm, and Jake's nerves were frayed after narrowly avoiding capture. Still, they refused to let despair take hold. They had struck a blow against the invaders, however small, and that was enough to keep them going. As Emma examined the stolen supplies, her expression turned serious. "This changes everything," she said. "With these materials, I can build more prototypes, stronger ones." Alex looked at the others, a fierce determination in his eyes. "Then let's get to work. This isn't over yet." Outside, the alien ships loomed ominously, casting long shadows over the ruined city. But deep underground, amidst the flickering lights and scattered papers, humanity was beginning to fight back. And for the first time since the invasion began, the future didn't seem quite so hopeless. Part 3. The night was cold and eerily quiet as Alex, Mia, Ryan, and Jake made their way through the ruins of Chicago. The streets were dark, lit only by the faint glow of distant fires and the occasional flash of alien energy beams cutting through the sky. Every step they took felt heavier than the last, not just because of the weight of their backpacks, but also because of the fear gnawing at their insides. They knew they were walking into danger, but there was no turning back. Now Ryan led the group, his military training kicking in as he scanned the area for threats. He moved cautiously, his eyes darting between shadows and crumbled buildings. "Stay close," he whispered over his shoulder, "and keep your voices low." Behind him, Alex clutched a makeshift weapon, a metal pipe he had found in the shelter, and tried to steady his breathing. His hands were sweaty, and his heart raced every time he heard a sound. Mia walked beside him, her phone's flashlight dimmed to avoid drawing attention. She kept glancing at the screen, checking the map they had sketched out earlier. Jake brought up the rear, carrying the disc he had found and looking increasingly nervous with each passing minute. As they approached the industrial zone, the air grew thick with smoke. The smell of burning metal and plastic filled their nostrils, making it hard to breathe. The factories and warehouses that once stood tall were now reduced to skeletal remains, their walls charred and roofs collapsed. But amidst the destruction there was hope. Hope that somewhere within these ruins lay the materials Emma needed to build her weapon. "Over there," Mia whispered, pointing toward a partially intact warehouse. Its doors were bent and hanging, off their hinges, but it looked like it might still hold supplies. Ryan nodded and motioned for the group to follow him inside. The interior of the warehouse was pitch black, save for the beam of Mia's flashlight. Dust floated in the air, catching the light as they moved cautiously through the space. Shelves lined the walls, some toppled over, others holding crates and boxes that had miraculously survived the chaos. Ryan began searching through the debris, tossing aside anything useless until he found what he was looking for: circuit boards. "This is good," he said, holding up a small bundle of components. "Emma can work with this." Mia joined in, rummaging through another pile of rubble. Her fingers brushed against something metallic, and she pulled it out. A box containing coils of copper wire. "Got something," she exclaimed softly, holding it up for the others to see. Jake wandered further into the warehouse, his eyes scanning the shelves. He paused when he spotted a locked cabinet tucked away in a corner. Using a piece of rebar he had picked up earlier, he pried it open. Inside, he found exactly what they were looking for: rare metals, neatly stacked and labeled. "Guys, come, look at this," Jake called out, his voice barely above a whisper. Alex hurried over, his eyes widening at the sight. "This is perfect," he said. "We hit the jackpot." But their moment of triumph was short-lived. A loud crash echoed through the warehouse, followed by the unmistakable hum of alien machinery. The group froze, their blood running cold. Ryan quickly extinguished Mia's flashlight, plunging them into darkness. "They're here," Ryan muttered under his breath. "Everyone, stay down." Peering through the gaps in the shelves, they saw the source of the noise. Two Xylothian drones hovering silently as they scanned the area with glowing red sensors. These weren't the towering biomechanical warriors they had encountered before. These were smaller, more agile units designed for reconnaissance. Still, they were just as deadly. Alex tightened his grip on the metal pipe, his knuckles white. Beside him, Mia bit her lip to keep from crying out. Jake crouched low, clutching the box of metals tightly to his chest. Ryan, meanwhile, pulled out a knife he had taken from the shelter and gestured for the others to stay put. One of the drones floated closer, its sensor sweeping across the shelves where the group was hiding. It paused, as if detecting something, and then emitted a sharp beep. The second drone joined it, and together they began moving in their direction. Ryan cursed under his breath. "We need to move. Now." Without waiting for a response, he crept forward, keeping to the shadows. The others followed, their movements slow and deliberate. The drones continued their search, their hum growing louder as they closed in. Just as the first drone rounded a shelf, Ryan lunged at it, driving his knife into its core. Sparks flew as the machine sputtered and fell to the ground, lifeless. The second drone reacted instantly, spinning around and firing a thin beam of energy that narrowly missed Alex's head. He ducked behind a crate, his heart pounding. "Get down," Ryan shouted, grabbing a chunk of broken concrete and hurling it at the drone. The impact knocked it off balance, giving Jake enough time to smash it with the metal box he was carrying. The drone sparked and whirred before collapsing in a heap of twisted parts. For a moment, the only sound was the heavy breathing of the four survivors. Then Ryan spoke, his voice firm despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Let's grab what we came for and get out of here fast." They worked quickly, stuffing the materials into their bags and double-checking to make sure they hadn't missed anything. As they prepared to leave, Mia noticed something on the far side of the warehouse, a computer terminal, its screen flickering. Weakly, against Ryan's protests, she approached it and tapped a few keys. To her surprise, it was still operational. "There's data here," she whispered excitedly. "Logs from before the invasion. Maybe we can learn something about why they're doing this." Alex hesitated, glancing nervously toward the entrance. "We don't have time for this." "We'll make time," Mia insisted. She inserted a USB drive she had been carrying and began downloading the files. The process was agonizingly slow, but she refused to leave without it. Finally, the download completed, and the group slipped out of the warehouse, sticking to the shadows as they retraced their steps. The journey back was tense, every sound making them jump. At one point, they had to hide in an abandoned car when a patrol of Xylothian soldiers passed by, their mechanical footsteps echoing ominously. When they finally reached the shelter, exhaustion hit them all at once. They stumbled inside, dropping their bags onto the floor and collapsing onto the cold concrete. Emma rushed over, her eyes lighting up as she saw the contents of their haul. "You did it," she said, her voice filled with awe. "This is everything I need." Ryan shook his head. "Don't thank us yet. We almost didn't make it." Emma didn't respond. She was already unpacking the materials, spreading them out on a makeshift table and examining each piece carefully. "With this I can finish the prototype," she said, her tone brimming with determination. "But I'll need help assembling it." "I'm in," Alex said without hesitation. "Whatever it takes." Mia nodded in agreement. "Me too. If this works, it could turn the tide." Jake hesitated, then added, "Count me in as well. I owe you guys for getting me out of there." As the group gathered around Emma discussing the next steps, a sense of purpose washed over them. For the first time since the invasion began, they felt like they were fighting back. Not just surviving, but actively working to reclaim their world. Outside, the alien ships continued their assault, their presence a constant reminder of the stakes. But deep underground, amidst the flickering lights and scattered papers, hope burned brighter than ever. Humanity wasn't ready to give up, not yet. Part 2. The shelter beneath the old library was quiet except for the occasional cough or whimper from someone trying to hold back tears. The air was thick and heavy, filled with the smell of damp concrete and sweat. People sat huddled together, their faces pale and drawn, as if they were waiting for something worse to happen. And they probably were. Alex Carter leaned against a cold wall, staring at the flickering light bulb hanging from the ceiling. His mind raced with questions. Where was Lisa? Was Sophie safe? What had happened to the rest of the city? Every time he closed his eyes, he saw flashes of the destruction, the crumbling buildings, the bright blue beams of alien energy, the terrified faces of people running for their lives. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Nearby, Mia Thompson was still clutching her phone, even though there was no signal. She scrolled through the photos she'd taken earlier, looking at the images of the alien ships hovering over the city. Each picture made her stomach churn. She wasn't sure why she kept looking at them. It wasn't helping. But maybe it was her way of staying grounded. As a journalist, she had always believed in documenting the truth. If she survived this, she wanted the world to know what had happened here. Emma Lewis sat a few feet away, typing furiously on her laptop. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard, her face lit by the glow of the screen. Around her, papers and notebooks were scattered, covered in diagrams and notes scrawled in messy handwriting. When Alex approached her earlier, she had mentioned working on something to fight back, but he hadn't pressed her for details. Now curiosity got the better of him. "What are you doing?" Alex asked again, lowering himself onto the floor next to her. Emma glanced up briefly before returning to her work. "I'm trying to figure out how their weapons work," she said simply. "If we can understand their technology, maybe we can find a way to stop them." Alex frowned. "How do you even start with something like that?" "I've been studying advanced systems for years," Emma replied. "Before all this, I worked on AI and robotics. Some of the principles might apply here." She tapped a page filled with sketches of strange symbols and patterns. "These look like parts of their language, or maybe code. If I can decode it." Her voice trailed off as another tremor shook the shelter. Dust rained down from the ceiling, and several people gasped. Outside, the sound of explosions echoed faintly, a reminder that the aliens were still attacking. Alex swallowed hard, forcing himself to focus. "Do you think it's possible?" he asked. "I mean, really possible?" Emma hesitated, then nodded. "It has to be. We don't have any other choice." Later that evening, Ryan Dawson arrived at the shelter. A former Marine turned mechanic, Ryan had been driving through the city when the invasion began. He managed to escape the initial chaos and found refuge underground after hearing about the safe zone on an emergency broadcast. His clothes were dirty, and his hands were calloused from years of working with tools, but his sharp green eyes betrayed a fierce determination. Ryan introduced himself to the group, explaining that he had experience with combat and vehicle repair. When Emma mentioned her work on decoding alien tech, his interest was piqued. "If you're serious about fighting back," Ryan said, "you'll need more than just theories. You'll need weapons, and people who know how to use them." Emma looked skeptical. "We don't exactly have access to weapons right now." "We make do," Ryan replied firmly. Improvised explosives, modified vehicles, anything we can get our hands on. Trust me, I've done it before. His confidence gave the others a small sense of hope. For the first time since the invasion began, Alex felt like they weren't completely powerless. Maybe, just maybe, they could do something to fight back. Over the next few days, the group began planning their next move. Emma continued working on deciphering the alien symbols, while Ryan scouted the area around the shelter for supplies. Alex and Mia helped gather food and water for the survivors, but they also listened to stories from the people they met. Many had lost loved ones in the attacks. Others had narrowly escaped death themselves. Despite the fear and grief, there was a growing sense of unity among the survivors. They were all in this together. One night, as everyone settled in to sleep, Mia noticed Jake Harper sitting alone in a corner. Jake was a wiry man in his early 30s with dark hair and hollow cheeks. He had arrived at the shelter a day earlier, claiming to have been hiding near one of the alien landing sites. At first, no one paid much attention to him. He seemed too quiet, too withdrawn, but Mia sensed there was more to his story. She walked over and sat down beside him. "Hey," she said softly. "Mind if I join you?" Jake shrugged. "Suit yourself." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Mia broke the silence. "You were there, weren't you? Near the aliens?" Jake nodded slowly. "Yeah, I was stupid. Enough to stick around after the attack started. Thought I could, I don't know, learn something useful." "Did you?" Mia asked, leaning closer. Jake hesitated, then pulled out a small device from his pocket. It was metallic and shaped, like a disc with glowing lines etched into its surface. "Found this near one of their ships," he said. "Don't know what it does, but it feels important." Mia's eyes widened. "Have you shown this to anyone else?" "Not yet," Jake admitted. "Figured I should wait until I found the right person." "Well, you found her," Mia said with a grin. She grabbed Jake's arm and pulled him toward Emma. "You need to show this to her, right now." When Jake handed the disc to Emma, her eyes lit up with excitement. She immediately connected it to her laptop using wires she had scavenged from the shelter. Lines of code appeared on the screen, scrolling faster than anyone could read. Emma's fingers flew across the keyboard as she analyzed the data. "This is incredible," she murmured. "It's like a piece of their operating system. If I can crack it—" Ryan crossed his arms, watching intently. "What are the odds?" "It's not impossible," Emma replied without looking up. "If I can isolate certain commands, maybe disable their shields or disrupt their communication, we could have a real advantage." The room fell silent as everyone waited anxiously for her to finish. Hours passed, and the tension grew thicker with each passing minute. Finally, Emma leaned back in her chair, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. "I think I've got something," she announced. "But we'll need materials to build it. Rare metals, circuit boards, stuff like that." Ryan nodded. "There's an old industrial zone about 10 miles from here. Used to house factories and warehouses. If anything's left, we'll find it there." Alex stepped forward. "Then we go." Mia frowned. "Are you crazy? It's crawling with those things out there." "We don't have a choice," Alex said firmly. "If this works, it could save us all." After a brief discussion, the group decided to send a small team to retrieve the materials. Alex, Mia, Ryan, and Jake would go, while Emma stayed behind to refine her design. The plan was risky, but they all knew it was necessary. They couldn't afford to sit and wait for the aliens to destroy what little remained of their world. As they prepared to leave, Alex recorded a message on his phone for Lisa and Sophie. He didn't know if he'd ever see them again, but he wanted them to know that he had tried his best. Tears welled up in his eyes as he spoke, but he forced himself to stay strong. When the team finally stepped outside, the devastation hit them like a punch to the gut. The once familiar streets were unrecognizable, littered with debris and ash. The alien ships loomed overhead, casting long shadows across the ruined landscape. But the group pressed on, driven by a shared purpose. They didn't know what lay ahead. But one thing was clear: Humanity wasn't going down without a fight. Farsinban. The morning started like any other in Chicago. The sun rose over Lake Michigan, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. Birds chirped as people woke up to begin their day. Coffee shops opened their doors and cars filled the gay streets. It was an ordinary Tuesday, until it wasn't. At first, no one noticed the strange hum in the air. It was faint at first, almost like distant thunder. But then the ground began to tremble ever so slightly, causing cups of coffee to rattle on tables and phones to vibrate on countertops. People stopped what they were doing, looking around in confusion. That's when they saw it. Above the city skyline, massive shapes descended from the clouds. They weren't airplanes or helicopters. These objects were enormous, sleek, and metallic, glinting ominously in the sunlight. 3 of them hovered above Chicago alone, but reports quickly flooded in that similar ships had appeared over New York, Los Angeles, London, Tokyo, and countless other cities around the world. Panic erupted, instantly. Cars screeched to a halt and people spilled out into the streets, pointing upward in disbelief. Some ran for cover, while others froze, unable to comprehend what was happening. The hum grew louder, vibrating through bones and making it hard to think clearly. Then came the voice, a deep, cold sound that seemed to echo inside everyone's heads. "Attention, humans," the voice boomed. "You have been deemed unworthy stewards of this planet. Surrender your world to us or face annihilation." Alex Carter stood frozen outside his apartment building, holding a cup of coffee he'd just bought from his favorite cafe. His mind raced as he stared at the alien ship hovering above the Willis Tower. Was this real? Could something like this actually happen? He felt his heart pounding in his chest, each beat louder than the last. Around him, people screamed, cried, or simply stared blankly at the sky. Not far away, Mia Thompson was trying to record everything on her phone. As a journalist for the Tribune, she knew this moment would change history, if there was still going to be a history. Her hands shook as she filmed the scene. The panicked crowds, the eerie silence after the alien's message ended, and the sheer size of the ship blotting out half the sky. She zoomed in on its surface, noting the intricate patterns etched into the metal. Whatever these things were, they weren't here to negotiate. Military jets soon roared overhead, heading straight for the alien vessels. Alex watched as the tiny planes circled the massive ships, firing missiles that exploded harmlessly against invisible shields. The aliens didn't even flinch. Instead, beams of bright blue energy shot down from the ships, vaporizing entire buildings in seconds. The crowd below scattered, screaming as debris rained down onto the streets. Mia ducked behind a parked car, clutching her phone tightly. She wanted to keep filming, to document every second of this nightmare, but survival instincts kicked in. A man nearby tripped and fell, his leg caught under a piece of falling concrete. Without thinking, Mia crawled toward him, dragging him to safety just before another explosion sent shockwaves rippling through the area. Meanwhile, Alex found himself swept along with the fleeing masses. He tried calling his wife, Lisa, and their 8-year-old daughter, Sophie, but the lines were dead. Cell towers must have gone down already. Fear gripped him as he imagined them trapped somewhere in the chaos. He needed to find them no matter what. As he pushed through the crowd, Alex spotted a group of soldiers setting up barricades near Millennium Park. They shouted orders, urging civilians to head toward underground shelters. One soldier handed him a flyer listing safe zones. Alex stuffed it into his pocket without looking at it. All he cared about was getting to Lisa and Sophie. The journey was anything but easy. Streets were blocked by abandoned cars and piles of rubble. Smoke filled the air, stinging his eyes and making it hard to breathe. Every step felt heavier than the last, but he refused to give up. Along the way, he passed families huddled together, children crying, and elderly people struggling to move fast enough. The sight broke his heart, but he couldn't stop. Not yet. Eventually, Alex reached the shelter listed on the flyer. It was located beneath an old library, its entrance guarded by armed soldiers. Inside, hundreds of people huddled together, coughing and crying. The air smelled damp and stale, but it was safer here than outside. Alex scanned the room frantically, searching for familiar faces. That's when he saw her, Mia Thompson. She sat slumped against a wall, her phone clutched in one hand and a bottle of water in the other. Her face was smudged with dirt, and her hair stuck to her forehead with sweat, but she looked alive. When she noticed Alex staring at her, she gave him a weak smile. "You okay?" she asked, her voice hoarse. "I'm fine," Alex replied, though his trembling hand said otherwise. "Have you seen my family?" Mia shook her head. "I've only been here for a few minutes myself. I haven't seen anyone I know." Before either of them could say more, a loud crash echoed from above, shaking the walls of the shelter. Dust fell from the ceiling, and several people screamed. Alex clenched his fists, feeling utterly helpless. What could they possibly do against an enemy like this? But then he noticed someone else, a young woman sitting quietly in the corner, typing furiously on a laptop. Her name tag read, Emma Lewis. Curious, Alex approached her. "What are you doing?" he asked. Emma glanced up briefly before returning to her screen. "Trying to figure out how to fight back," she said matter-of-factly. "We can't just sit here and wait to die." Alex blinked, surprised by her determination. Maybe there was hope after all. For now, all he could do was stay alive and pray that Lisa and Sophie were safe somewhere too. Outside, the alien ships continued their relentless assault, turning once bustling cities into smoking ruins. But deep underground, amidst the fear and despair, seeds of resistance were beginning to sprout. Little did anyone know, humanity's darkest hour would also become its greatest test and its finest hour.